Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back. Um, Today we're going to have a little bit of a shorter video today because I'm going to give you an assignment at the end of this video that I want you to really spend some time thinking about and working on, and it has to do a little bit with what we mentioned at the end of the last video. So hopefully you watch that and know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, if you watch this whole video, then you'll know. Okay. But we are going to talk about the glam bands of the 1970s. Um, Glam in many ways is related to punk rock, but there are several people who fit this kind of glam description that probably wouldn't be considered related to punk in any way. So in its truest sense, it is you can think of it as kind of a maybe even a subgenre of punk, but you'll see there is a certain visual aesthetic that that some of these performers have that even if their music doesn't sound entirely punk-ish, they can still fall under this glam label. And some have even transcended the label of glam, as I think you'll see here. So let's talk about some of these glam bands. So first we have a band called Mott the Hoople. They blended glam rock with Bob Dylan style folk. And they had a song that really became one of the anthems of this style of music. It was actually a cover of David Bowie's All the Young Dudes. That was the name of the song. And it's really kind of representative, I think, of this this punk rock, but with kind of this flamboyant exterior, we'll say. Next, we have Roxy Music. They had a darker sound that was the same, quote, uneasy mix of melody and experimentation, end quote, as the best work of the Beatles and Pink Floyd. They released Stranded, the album with its hit Mother of Pearl. That was the big hit off that album in 1973. And this is considered one of glam rock's finest musical staples. You can't talk about glam without talking about Ziggy Stardust himself, David Bowie, who lived from 1947 until just recently, 2016. To me, that's recently. For you, that's like, what, a quarter of your life? But yeah, that's 4 years ago. So in order to overcome his fear of performing on stage, he created this persona named Ziggy Stardust. So yeah, so David Bowie had like stage fright, which, it's hard to believe if you know anything about David Bowie. It's very, appears to be very extroverted, very charismatic, very kind of wild performer. But yeah, but he had stage fright, and to get over it, he created this Ziggy Stardust persona. So Ziggy Stardust is like an alien, if I'm not mistaken. He's a kind of just like a freaky, deaky kind of dude from outer space. So I'm gonna post a link here to some of these songs from David Bowie. Check out The Man Who Sold the World, From the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. That's a mouthful. So we also get here an example of what we call a concept album, where a normal album might have just a succession of songs. So it's like song, 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 and each one is different than the next. But in a concept album, there's a story that's being told, and all of the songs on the album are like chapters in a book that tell a different part of the story. So that's what this album is here. 1985, he recorded a duet with the Rolling Stones' Mick Jagger, which was a cover of Dancing in the Streets. And yeah, he was very interesting performer. And you'll see here, I'm going to post a link also to a very well-known song by him called Space Oddity, which really, I think, exemplifies this Ziggy Stardust character quite well. This Space Odyssey, sorry, Oddity, Space Oddity song. And this is another song that is often mistitled. People call it like Ground Control or Ground Control to Major Tom. Maybe you know it just by me saying those. Those are lyrics in the song, but that's not the name of the song. Okay, next we have Elton John, who is still with us today. I think he actually just did a live performance on that on that Lady Gaga thing. I think, didn't he perform? I don't know. But he was born in 1947. Definitely one of the biggest pop stars of the 1970s. He's not known for his for being a lyricist. People think of Elton John, they don't really think of him as being a great lyricist. So this is why he had to team up with different songwriters, including Bernie Taupin. And so this is where we get really great songs like Your Song and Benny and the Jets. This was a collaboration with Bernie Taupin, who wrote the lyrics. But he is a master songwriter. There's a clip out there somewhere, I'll see if I can find it, of someone like gave him like the instruction manual to a toaster or something, and he wrote this awesome song that is just like, just like, out of, the most random words, like the phone book or, like this instruction manual. He can make a song out of anything, so he has a very special talent that way. But yeah, okay. Following a record-breaking 5-date stint at Madison Square Garden in 1988, Elton John auctioned off all of his theatrical costumes, thousands of pieces of memorabilia, and his extensive record collection. Okay, so that was an auction that he did. Yeah, you can see up here in the top right, you have him in one of his very flamboyant costumes. He also one time wore like a rhinestone Donald Duck costume on stage. He has very eccentric costumes that he would wear in his performances. He had many struggles throughout his life, including drug addiction, and actually suffered from bulimia, the eating disorder. That's I'm not sure how many people realize about him these days. But he got clean in 1991, and he donated a large sum of money to the AIDS Foundation to try to find a cure for AIDS and HIV. He actually teamed up with Tim Rice in 1994 to write the soundtrack to The Lion King. Not sure how many of you knew that, although maybe you did know one of his most well-known songs to this day is from The Lion King, and that is Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And then 1997 very famously recorded Candle in the Wind for when Princess Diana was killed in a horrific car crash in Paris. She, of course, was married to Prince Charles, and now her children are making news. I'm talking about, of course, Prince Harry and Prince William. I couldn't remember the other one's name, and they're making the news these days for different reasons. Some good, some not so good. Okay, oh man, I'm covering up the great picture of Queen, but yes, Queen. We all love Queen, right? Such a great band. Considered one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Of course, fronted by Freddie Mercury, who lived from 1946 until 1991. He was the vocalist, and he was really the musical genius behind the band. Not to take anything away from the outstanding musicians like Brian May and Roger Taylor and John Deacon, and those were the other members of the band. All fantastic musicians in their own right, but Freddie Mercury really was the driving force behind all this. He wrote all this, most of the songs, and he would write out all the solos for the band. Um, so when you're hearing like Brian May's awesome guitar solo, he is playing it awesomely, and he is a great guitar player, but Freddie Mercury would actually write out those solos. He is rumored to have a 5-octave vocal range. I'm not quite sure if I buy that, but he did have a very extensive vocal range. 5 octaves is a lot, especially for a male singer. I'm not sure if you saw the Queen movie that came out, was that last year or the year before? But they did reference this. It is, and this part is true. He did have, um, he was born with extra teeth in his mouth, so that this is why sometimes you see him. It looks like he has like when his mouth is closed, his teeth are kind of protruding. But in the movie, Freddie Mercury, and I think he did claim this in real life as well, that gave his uh, the sound extra room to resonate and stuff, and that's how he was able to have the vocal range that he did. I don't know, it seems dubious to me, but who am I to spoil a legendary story? All of the members of the band sang, including the drummer. And this is notable because the drummer, Roger Taylor, would actually sing the soprano line when they would have these big choral, you know, uh, 4-part harmonies. The highest voice actually is not Freddie Mercury's. Much of the time, it's Roger Taylor, the drummer. Brian May is one of the most innovative when it comes to his usage of the delay and different distortion and effects and extended techniques on the guitar. He's an extremely melodic player who is capable of showcasing his virtuosic. We all remember what that word means, right? You've mentioned that word before. Showcasing virtuosic techniques as well as possessing one of the best guitar tones in the business. He also has his PhD in astrophysics, so he's kind of a smart guy too. So you too can be an astrophysicist slash guitar legend if you put your mind to it. Roger Taylor is one of the greatest drummers in hard rock, capable of playing various rhythms and grooves with ease. John Deacon, very good bassist in his own right, and who has produced some of the most memorable bass lines in history, including, of course, Another One Bites the Dust. Boom, 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 boom. He wrote that bass line. And of course, also Queen's collaboration with David Bowie, who we just talked about, in their song Under Pressure. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. That's him too. They performed in 1985 at Live Aid, and this is a legendary performance, considered to be one of the greatest live performances ever. I'm going to link it. It's about a 20-minute performance, worth watching the whole thing, I think. I'll let you watch that at your own leisure. If we were in school, we would take a day and watch it, the whole thing, and then talk about it afterwards, because it's that important a performance. But yeah, I think that's all I'll say about it right now, because we do want to get a move on. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. Now, listen to the listening examples I posted. Watch Live Aid. maybe that's something fun too that you could do with your families is watch that Queen performance from Live Aid. Very, it's a very fun time. Great songs too. You know, of course they do, um, you know, the big songs like Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like that. But they also do some of my favorite songs that from Queen that might not be as familiar to you. I'm talking about songs like Hammer to Fall and Radio Gaga, some of my favorite Queen songs that might not be ones that are as accessible to you, or maybe ones that you haven't heard of, like you have heard of Bohemian Rhapsody or Somebody to Love or Another One Bites the Dust or songs like that that you probably have heard of. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I mentioned in the last video that we are going to be meeting in June, and I'm still hammering the date on that, but I'm shooting for the first week of June, maybe that Friday. What is that, June 5th or something like that? That I'm shooting for that first week of June. We are going to be meeting on Zoom with the drummer, the great drummer from one of my favorite bands, Rival Sons. His name is Mike Miley. And I want us, this is going to be a mandatory Zoom meeting. You know, a lot of the time these are not mandatory, or I haven't been making these meetings mandatory, but for this one I definitely am going to make mandatory. So you'll want to show up to that. Mr. Fabo will be there. This is a great, a nice little treat for you guys, I think, to talk to, you know, a famous rock star. So what I want you to do is I want everyone, as your assignment for today, to come up with 5 to 10 questions that you want to ask Mike Miley. I'm going to put some of Rival Sons songs in the notes here too, so you'll see it will be the listening examples for today, and then under that I'll put a bunch of songs by Rival Sons, so you can get a feel of what their sound is like and things like that. But your questions could be about the specific songs, or they could be just general questions that you would want to ask a professional musician, maybe what life is like on the road, what's touring. They're an extensive touring band. You know, they're one of the top touring bands, you know, around these days. So maybe you want to ask him what touring is like, what recording is like, what songwriting is like, how involved is he in the songwriting. Maybe you want to ask him how a band who tours so much is handling this, you know, current pandemic where, you know, concerts are shut down. How are they dealing with that? That could be an interesting question to ask. Well, I don't want to give you all the questions to ask, but you know, these are just some things that you could think about as you develop your own questions. So you are going to do that, and that's what you're going to submit. You don't have to do it today. It's not due today, but maybe we'll have it due by the end of this weekend, so you can have some time to think about it. But I definitely want everyone to have 5 to 10 questions to ask Mike Miley. Most likely, you will not get to ask all of them, but when we're on the call, I don't want to have a situation where we have like tons of awkward silences and pauses and stuff like that. I want to be able to, you know, have there be a constant conversation, and maybe you can even have questions that are conversation starters, you know, like, and that could be good for us as well. But I don't want to have that awkward silence, so I want to make sure that everyone is prepared with at the very least 5 questions, so that we can avoid that. Okay. If you have any more questions, please let me know. You know, our office hours are live on Google Meet every Wednesday from 1:30 to 2 p.m. and I'll be there waiting for you. All right, guys, take care.